And you hear Steve Kerr use the word unforgivable. Tim Legler on ESPN used the word inexcusable.
Incredibly selfish, inexcusable, and I'm tired of prefacing these moments by saying everything he's done for the organization. I'm not going to do that anymore. I used to do that every time these conversations came up. Yeah, but where would they be without Draymond? No, I don't want to hear it anymore. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive, right? This is inexcusable, and here's why I agree. This team is hanging by a rope over a cliff right now.
Yeah.
And they desperately want to get in. And by the way, more than anybody else, more than Steve Kerr, more than the franchise, you owe Curry, you owe Steph Curry to be out there on this night.
Yeah.
And he just walks 4 minutes into a game that they have to have. And miraculously, they found a way to win the game on a night where they didn't play particularly well, but they played hard, and Curry was great late.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, there's not a one of us that hasn't felt this at some point in their lives with someone where you're just like, I mean, you can do everything that you're supposed to do today. You can tell everybody that can't happen. And you can apologize to the team at halftime. Words. Words are our business, but even I'm aware they only go so far. This one really sucked.
Yeah, but you won the game. And Steve said it to us in the interview. If we would have lost the game, it would have been a whole lot worse.
No doubt.
He's right.
No doubt. But those
I'm not trying to minimize what happened.
But those two things are also separate. They're separate. You're right.
Well, it's process and results. You and I talk a lot about this. The process of last night's game was a disaster.
Totally flawed.
The result was pretty damn good.
Amazing.
He had a plucky little outing from an underdog ragtag group, and you got a road win and a back-to-back. I
don't know if that was plucky.
Guy Santos coming in and playing gutsy minutes, dusted off Kevon Looney.
But that's kind of inspired.
Yeah.
It's kind of inspired.
I went out of my way to get your girlfriend involved.
I know where you are on that. It's just,
maybe the fact that it was the second half of a back-to-back.
The Rockets are plucky.
Yeah, the Rockets are dangerous.
Warriors last night were inspired.
Rockets are cocky. They're coming for you now, 10 in a row.
I had a joke in my head, and I went back, and I went forth, and I went back, and I forth, and I'm going to go no.
Okay.
It's going to be a no from me, dog.
I like the restraint.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. I just didn't want to put Grandy in that position where he had to decide in 10 seconds whether or not it was okay.
That's more my lane.
Yeah. Anyway, so, the Rockets they're here.
Yep.
And they're not going away, it appears. And I understand it. We're Warriors fans. They're the Warriors. We are not used to, nor did we sign up for the race for the 10 seed. Ugh.
Well, we said it 2 weeks ago, they've got the 10.
Yeah,
I mean, they're in the play-in, and we all said it.
Totally.
And we all meant it. Oh, they're going to be the 10. So it's just a question of can they get up to the 6. And here we are some 2 to 3 weeks later, and it's like,
can they hang on to the 10?
Forget the 6, and the 7 and the 8 are out of the question. You might sniff the 9, but honestly, it's a fight for the 10. You are fighting for your play-in lives with 10 games to go. And not only that, Mark, but something I thought about on the drive in, might this be the last 10 games of the Big Three era in Golden State? You've got Draymond, who can't seem to evolve and want to be kept around, and Klay Thompson's contract is up after 10 more games. Could these be the last 10 games of the Big Three in Golden State?
Could be. I mean, it certainly could be.
Would you say that that's the more favored side?
No.
You think that it's more likely that Klay comes back and they don't trade Draymond?
Correct.
Okay.
But here's the problem. I could answer that a different way. I could say 100% these are the last 10 games of the Big Three era. Because even if they still play together, the organization needs to stop looking at them as the Big Three.
Right.
Because they're not anymore.
No.
And that's the problem.
They're the legendary 3.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
When I said earlier that this team right now is falling under the weight of its own accomplishments, these players, Draymond Green doesn't care about fighting for the 10 seed because he's Draymond freaking Green, and he's been to the finals 6 times. Klay Thompson had to work his way through a whole months-long therapy session to get back to, I'm not the player I used to be. I can come off the bench. I can succeed with it. We're impressed by what he ended up doing with it. But it was only a year ago that he's holding up four fingers at Devin Booker. I'm a champion. Don't ever forget it. And it's like, you're right. But what does that got to do with today? You know, that's a big piece of why I think Steph Curry is a sympathetic figure yesterday, because he's the best of the bunch, and he's the one that looks like he's upset the most that you guys are just flicking the 10 seed off of your shoulder because who cares about the 10 seed? Steph is over here going, I do.
Right.
And you don't. And that's why I'm going to pull my jersey over my face, because I'm so freaking mad at you right now, because I want this more than you, and that's ridiculous. And that resonated with people. That froze everyone. Didn't that freeze you last night? Steph Curry having to be consoled 3 minutes into a basketball game in Orlando on a Wednesday?
Right.
Pulling a jersey over his face, potentially crying. Didn't that freeze you in your tracks?
Yes, because he was basically expressing what we all were feeling, which was, oh no, not again. And he obviously feels it much more viscerally because he's his teammate. He's been on the floor with this guy for probably 900 games. I just did the math, and Steph has played 1,100 games, regular and postseason games. Draymond's probably played about 950 of those with Steph.
Right.
And so Steph has seen everything that we've seen. He's lived firsthand. And so this happens yet again. And I'm sure the sentiment going into the game was, all right, guys, game 72, Houston's on our heels. They want to be the 10 seed. They don't want to go out like lambs and wind up the 11 seed and wind up in the lottery. They're competitors. They want to have a shot at something.
Give them a shot.
And I'm sure that they would love, and one of the rallying cries now is probably, let's go to Denver. Let's get Denver. You win 2 games in the play-in, and you get Denver.
That feels so far.
It does, Mark.
That feels so many accomplishments away.
It does, but if you're looking at goal setting, and I know you're a big goal setter, so am I, the 6th seed, Steve talked about it a month ago. Yeah, our eyes are on the 6. Our goal is the 6. Well, you're not in the locker room now thinking, hey, let's get the 6. You're thinking, let's get in the play-in, and let's get our way to the 8 so maybe we can get to Denver. It'd be fun to at least get into a series with Denver, right? I think that's where the bar is set right now for this team.
50 minutes ago, Steph Curry posted something on Twitter. X.
Yeah.
I've noticed people are now starting to finally call it X.
It is still Twitter.
Yeah.
When you type in twitter.com, it takes you to X.
Well, it's funny when people go, I sent out a tweet on X. Well, if you're still going to call it a tweet, then you might as well still call it Twitter. Anyway, I'm off the soapbox. Steph Curry posted a 4-pic collage. So a picture of 4 different pictures. And all of them are from last night. One of them is just close up behind his jersey. Another one where he's like in motion shooting the ball. Another one where he is high-fiving a teammate. And then another one where he is hugging GP2 after the game. And he writes above it, I never take these for granted.
Whoa. These as in?
These wins, these nights, these games, whatever, these opportunities. Like, how can you look at that and not feel like that also has messaging behind it? And I hope that that's what Draymond understands when he does a podcast and says it's never as good as you think it is, but it's never as bad as you think it is. And my shoulder, if I just turned my shoulder, if I just turned my shoulder, then I wouldn't have gotten thrown out. Draymond, your team thinks that you took them for granted last night. Your team thinks that you took that game for granted. They think that you're taking this opportunity for granted, and they don't like it. And that's like...
First tweet in a week.
Yeah. Steph Curry,
chef.
Listen, there's also audio. You can hear it. You can hear what he's saying after the game. Let me find it here.
Just real quick while you're finding it, I do find it fascinating and interesting that in those 4 pictures, one of the 4 pictures is not he and Draymond dapping it up in the tunnel.
No.
He chose the GP2 hug. Because you got to have a hug pick in there because you're Steph and you're a lover, not a fighter. He could have put the Draymond hug in there.
Could have put Rennell in there. They hugged last week.
Good call.
Yeah, he didn't do that.
No.
All right, here's Curry on the ejection and then the rest of the squad.
All I say is we need him. He knows that. We all know that. So whatever it takes to keep him on the floor and be available, that's what's got to happen, especially at this point in the year. So it's a tough way to start the game, but I am extremely proud of every single person that stepped foot on the floor tonight and responded the way that they did, because back-to-back, the team as physical as they are, we got contributions from everybody, and it was a beautiful team effort to respond the way that we did and get this win, because we went and took it. And that's a big sign for us, a sign of growth to be able to respond that way.
Okay, so there's one, and then listen to this, because Steph was asked about the emotions. Why'd you react the way you did in that moment? Listen closely to what he says here.
Yeah, we know how important the season is, or this part of the season is, and our ability to get into a rhythm and secure a playing opportunity and give ourselves a shot. We don't want to have self-inflicted wounds when it comes to that. We all care. We all are passionate about the game and our chances to have something to play for down the stretch. So you give everything you got to this game, and that's the emotion.
I'm focused on one sentence in there when he says, we all care. When he says we all care, okay, that is interesting to me, because normally you'd be like, well, duh. Why do you even feel the need to say that? But I really believe that that's what was going on in Steph's head when Draymond got thrown out, is he felt like Draymond was saying, I don't care.
Right.
And that's brutal.
I don't care enough to control myself in that moment over a pretty innocuous foul call. It was a bad call. And I think that the refs had a little bit of a tough time early in that ball game. But if you really care about giving all you can, and Steph said it in that soundbite, I give everything I have for this game. And he does. When he's healthy, he plays. And Steph Curry goes out there and he plays as hard as he can. And he's been to the playoffs 9 times in his 15 years. And you can't tell me that he's not hungry to make it back for a 10th time into the playoffs, because as a competitor, that's the gold. That's the mana as an NBA player. It's not a Wednesday night in Oklahoma City. It's not a Tuesday night in Toronto. It's playing in April on the biggest stage and playing for a championship. And, it feels like you're talking about, Mark, Steph probably thought that, Draymond in that moment didn't really care about fighting for the 10.
What a brutal, no wonder he reacted the way he did. When you combine that comment, this tweet, this X, I never take these for granted. Yeah, I mean, you're getting a window into what Steph was feeling last night. He was feeling like Draymond takes him for granted and that he doesn't care.
Incredible disappointment in the moment.
Totally. In
a big game, not a must-win, but we're getting close to must-win territory. Game 72, and you fought all year, and you had to play for about a month without Draymond Green because he couldn't control himself. And Steve's right. Since Draymond's come back, he's been really good. He's pushed it a few times. He's gotten a few texts, but he hasn't gotten to that point. And even your monologue from last Thursday, where you talked about how impressed you are by his restraint, he had even kind of swung you over into his camp.
Yeah.
So to do this now on Game 72 in a huge spot at Orlando, I could see where he was devastated in the moment.
Yeah, it's a big whack to the legs.